The last thing I saw before the door slammed in my face was my sister Jennifer's triumphant smile. She stood in the doorway of what used to be our childhood home, my belongings scattered across the front lawn like trash, and told me I was no longer welcome, that I had 20 minutes to collect my things and leave, or she'd call the police. What Jennifer didn't know, what none of them knew, was that exactly 1 week later, a lawyer would call her name in the reading of my will. And the expression on her face in that moment would make everything I'd been through almost worth it. My name is David, and for 34 years, I thought I understood what family meant. I was the youngest of 3 siblings. Jennifer was the oldest at 40, then my brother Marcus at 37, and me bringing up the rear. We grew up in a modest 2-story house in the suburbs, the kind of place where neighbors knew each other's names and kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on. Our parents were good people. Dad worked construction his whole life, coming home with tired eyes and calloused hands, but always with enough energy to ask about our day. Mom was a school secretary who knew every kid in the district by name and kept our home filled with the smell of fresh cookies and the sound of laughter. They weren't rich, but they were careful. They saved, planned, and sacrificed to make sure we had what we needed. The house was paid off by the time Dad turned 60. A source of immense pride for him. "This is our legacy," he'd say, patting the doorframe like it was a beloved pet. "Something solid to leave you kids." I was always different from my siblings. Jennifer went into real estate and married a lawyer. Marcus became a sales manager with a corner office and a company car. They had the big careers, the impressive titles, the kind of lives that looked good at family gatherings. Me? I became a nurse. I worked in hospice care, sitting with people in their final days, holding hands, listening to last words, helping families navigate the hardest goodbye they'd ever face. It wasn't glamorous. The pay was decent but nothing spectacular. But it mattered. Every single day it mattered. My siblings never really understood my choice. Jennifer would make little comments about how I could have been a doctor if I'd applied myself more. Marcus would joke about me playing nurse while he closed 6-figure deals. Stung, but I learned to brush it off. I knew the value of what I did, even if they didn't. When Dad got sick 5 years ago, stage 4 lung cancer, cruel and fast, I was the one who took care of him. I moved back home, adjusted my work schedule, and spent every spare moment making sure he was comfortable. Jennifer visited on weekends when it was convenient. Marcus sent flowers and called every few days, but his career kept him too busy to help with the daily realities of caregiving. I watched my father fade. I administered his medications, managed his pain, and held his hand through the worst of it. Mom tried to help, but she was drowning in her own grief, barely keeping her head above water. The night before Dad died, he squeezed my hand and whispered, "You're a good son, David. The best. Don't let anyone make you forget that." Those were the last coherent words he said to me. 3 years later, Mom had a stroke. Sudden, devastating, leaving her partially paralyzed and needing full-time care. And once again, I was the one who stepped up. I moved back into the family home permanently. I coordinated her physical therapy, managed her medications, helped her relearn how to do basic tasks. I put my own life on hold, dating, friendships, career advancement, to make sure Mom had the care and dignity she deserved. Jennifer and Marcus appreciated it, they said. They were so grateful. I could be there because their lives were just so hectic. They'd visit for Sunday dinners, stay for a few hours, then return to their busy, important lives while I stayed behind, washing Mom's clothes and helping her to the bathroom at 2 in the morning. I never asked for thanks. I did it because I loved her, because she was my mother, and she'd given me everything. This was what family did, or what I thought family did. Mom lived for 2 more years before her heart finally gave out. I was holding her hand when she passed, just like I'd been holding Dad's. In those final moments, she looked at me with such love and gratitude that I knew, whatever sacrifices I'd made, they'd been worth it. But that feeling didn't last long. The day after Mom's funeral, Jennifer called a family meeting at the house. She'd always been the bossy one, the take-charge sibling who assumed leadership whether anyone asked for it or not. Marcus and I showed up, both emotionally drained. expecting to discuss funeral arrangements and maybe start the painful process of going through Mom's things. Instead, Jennifer pulled out a folder. "We need to talk about the house," she announced, spreading papers across the kitchen table. The same table where we'd eaten countless family dinners, where Mom had helped us with homework, where Dad had taught us to play cards. "What about it?" I asked, confused. "Well, it needs to be sold, obviously," Jennifer said, like this was the most logical thing in the world. "The market's strong right now. I've already had it appraised. We're looking at about $450,000. Split 3 ways, that's $150 each." I stared at her. "Sold? Jennifer, I live here." "Right, and we've been very patient about that," she said, her tone turning sharp. "But Mom's gone now, and it's time to settle the estate. The house goes to all 3 of us equally according to the will. We want our share." "Very patient?" My voice came out strangled. "I've been taking care of our parents for 7 years. I gave up my apartment, my independence, my entire life to be here for them." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Look, David, we appreciate everything you did, but that was your choice. Nobody forced you to move back home." "My choice?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Where were you when Dad was throwing up from chemo? Where were you when Mom couldn't remember how to use a fork? I was here, taking care of them, while you 2 lived your lives. And we're grateful," Jennifer said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "But gratitude doesn't change property law. The house belongs to all of us, and Marcus and I need the money. I'm expanding my business, and Marcus is buying a vacation home. We deserve to access our inheritance." "This is my home," I said quietly. "I can't afford to buy you both out on a nurse's salary. If we sell, I'll have nowhere to go." Jennifer's expression hardened. "That's not our problem. You had years to plan for this. You knew Mom wouldn't live forever." I looked at Marcus, desperate for an ally. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Over the next week, they pressured me relentlessly. Phone calls, texts, surprise visits where Jennifer would walk through the house pointing out repairs that needed to be made before listing it. She brought her realtor friend by without asking me first. Marcus sent me links to apartments I could easily afford in neighborhoods 40 minutes from my work. I tried to negotiate. Could I rent the house from them? Could we work out a payment plan for their shares? Could we wait a few months while I figured things out? No, and no. Jennifer wanted her money now. Then came the final ultimatum. Jennifer showed up with Marcus and 2 large men I didn't recognize. "We've been patient enough," she said. "The house goes on the market next week. You need to be out by then." "You can't kick me out of my own home," I said, though my voice wavered. "Actually, we can," Jennifer replied coolly. "Marcus and I are majority shareholders in this property. 2 against 1. We've consulted with my husband, and legally, we have every right to require the property be vacated for sale." "Where am I supposed to go?" "Again, not our problem. You have 1 week." She glanced at her watch like I was wasting her valuable time. "Actually, why wait? These gentlemen are here to help you pack. I think it's better if you leave today." That's when everything became surreal. They started grabbing my things, my clothes, my books, my photographs. I tried to stop them, but Marcus physically blocked me. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he said. Within an hour, my entire life was in garbage bags on the front lawn. I stood there in shock, watching strangers handle my possessions while my siblings supervised like overseers. "You have 20 minutes to load your car before we lock up," Jennifer said. "I've changed the locks. Don't try to come back." I wanted to scream, to fight, to make them understand the cruelty of what they were doing. But I was too numb, too broken. I loaded what I could into my car and drove to a cheap motel on the highway, the kind with flickering neon signs and stains on the carpet. That night, sitting on a lumpy mattress in a room that smelled of cigarettes and despair, I made a decision. If this was how they wanted to treat family, then I would show them exactly what they'd thrown away. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Not some fancy corporate attorney like Jennifer's husband, but Tom Rodriguez, a kind man who'd helped me set up my will years ago when I started my nursing career. Estate planning was important in my field. We saw too often what happened when people died without their affairs in order. Tom, I said, I need to make some changes to my will. Significant changes. We met that afternoon. I explained everything. The years of caregiving, my siblings' betrayal, being thrown out of my childhood home. Tom listened, his expression growing darker with each detail. What you're describing is legal, unfortunately, he said, but morally reprehensible. I'm sorry, David. I want to change my beneficiaries, I told him. All of them. My original will had been simple and generous. Everything split between Jennifer and Marcus, my savings, my small investment portfolio, my life insurance policy through work. It wasn't a fortune, maybe $120,000 total, but it was substantial enough to matter. Now I changed everything. My savings would go to the hospice charity I'd volunteered with for years. My investment portfolio would be donated to a nursing scholarship fund. My life insurance, the biggest chunk at $75,000, would go to my best friend Casey, who'd been more family to me than my actual siblings ever were. But here's where I got creative. I added a special provision. Jennifer and Marcus would each receive exactly $1. Not zero, because leaving them nothing might allow them to contest the will. But $1 each, with a clause that explicitly stated, I leave this nominal sum to Jennifer and Marcus to make clear that their exclusion from my estate is intentional and based on their actions following our mother's death. Are you sure about this? Tom asked gently. This will create serious family conflict. We're past that, I said. They already chose money over family. I'm just making sure they understand what that choice cost them. But I wasn't done. I added one more twist. A letter to be read at the will reading. Mandatory attendance required for Jennifer and Marcus to receive even their $1. Tom would be required to read my words aloud to them. Then came the hardest part of my plan. I wrote the letter. I poured 7 years of pain, betrayal, and love into those pages. I made sure they would understand exactly what they'd done and what they'd lost. The week after I made these changes, I got a text from Jennifer. House sold. Closing in 30 days. Your share is $148,326. You're welcome. I didn't respond. I found a small apartment, nothing fancy but clean and mine. I threw myself into my work, finding solace in helping others during their darkest times. My patients didn't care that I'd been kicked out by my own family. They just needed someone to hold their hand and remind them they weren't alone. Casey helped me move in, bringing pizza and beer and refusing to let me wallow. They're idiots, she said simply. You're better off without them. Maybe I was, but it still hurt. 3 months passed. I didn't hear from Jennifer or Marcus except for one awkward text from Marcus. Hey, want to grab lunch sometime? I left it on read. Then I got an unexpected call from Tom. David, I need you to come to my office tomorrow. There's been... Well, just come by at 2. I arrived to find Tom looking uncomfortable. I've received a request from Jennifer and Marcus, he said carefully. They want to know if you'd be willing to lend them money. I almost laughed. Lend them money? For what? Apparently, Jennifer's business expansion didn't go as planned. She's overextended and facing some serious debt. Marcus's vacation home purchase fell through, and he lost his earnest money. They're both in financial trouble. The irony was staggering. They'd thrown me out and taken my home for money they didn't even need for emergencies, just greed and vanity. And now they wanted me to bail them out. Tell them no, I said simply. I will. But David, there's something else. Tom hesitated. I need to ask you something. Your will, are you certain about those provisions? More certain than ever. Why? Because I want to make sure you're not doing this out of anger or spite. Revenge might feel good now, but you might regret it later. I thought about that carefully. Was this revenge? Maybe. But it was also justice. It was making sure that people who valued money over family would understand the true cost of that choice. I'm certain, I told Tom. Don't change anything. Here's the thing about revenge. It's not as satisfying as you think it'll be. I imagine someday when Tom calls Jennifer and Marcus into his office for the reading of my will, there will be shock, anger, probably some tears. They'll realize that by throwing me away for a quick payout, they lost something far more valuable. But I won't be there to see it. And that's the point. This isn't about making them suffer. It's about making sure my money, the savings I built through years of hard work and sacrifice, goes to people and causes that actually value compassion and care. It's about making a statement that you can't treat people like garbage and still expect to benefit from their death. My siblings taught me a painful but important lesson. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. It's about who stays when things get hard. It's about who values you as a person, not just what you can give them. Casey is more family to me than Jennifer and Marcus ever were. The nurses I work with, who understood why I was late some days or distracted others when I was caring for my parents, their family. The patients' families who sent me thank you cards and told me I made the worst time of their lives a little more bearable, their family. Jennifer and Marcus? They're just people I used to know. People who shared my childhood but didn't share my values. I'm not angry anymore. Mostly I'm sad. Sad for what could have been. Sad that they couldn't see past dollar signs to the brother who loved them. Sad that our parents' legacy became a real estate transaction instead of a family bond. The money they got from selling the house, I put my share into savings. I'm building something for myself now, security, independence, maybe someday a small house of my own. I'm dating again, slowly rebuilding the personal life I put on hold. I'm volunteering more, finding purpose in service. I think about my parents sometimes and wonder what they'd think of all this. Dad, who valued hard work and loyalty. Mom, who believed family was everything. Would they be disappointed in how we fell apart? Or would they understand that sometimes blood isn't enough? I'd like to think they'd be proud of me, not for the revenge plot, but for standing up for myself, for recognizing my worth, for refusing to let people who threw me away continue to benefit from my existence. The will stays as is. When that day comes, hopefully many years from now, Tom will read my letter to Jennifer and Marcus. They'll learn what they gave up. They'll understand that the brother they discarded had more to offer than they realized. But more importantly, they'll learn that actions have consequences. That you can't betray someone's love and trust and expect no repercussions. That family is a verb, not a noun. It's something you do, not something you are. I hope they're doing well, honestly. I hope Jennifer's business recovers. I hope Marcus finds whatever he's looking for. I don't wish them harm. I just don't wish them my inheritance either. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about removing yourself from their equation entirely. It's about building a life so full of genuine love and purpose that their absence becomes irrelevant. That's what I'm doing now. Building, healing, moving forward. And if you're going through something similar, if you've been betrayed by people you thought would always have your back, I want you to know you're not alone. Your feelings are valid. Your hurt is real. And you deserve better than people who only value what you can give them. Stand up for yourself. Set boundaries. Protect your peace. And remember that the family you choose can be stronger than the family you're born into. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments. And consider subscribing for more honest conversations about the complicated reality of family relationships. The good, the bad, and everything in between. My siblings kicked me out. They chose money over family. And when the lawyer calls their names in my will, they'll receive exactly what they gave me, almost nothing. But I'll be okay. Better than okay, actually, because I learned that my worth isn't determined by people who couldn't see it. And that's a lesson worth more than any inheritance.